Hello and welcome to today's ScriptRunner Live session. Beyond the console, unleash PowerShell for your enterprise IT automation strategy. My name is Heiko. I'm with ScriptRunner and I will cover this topic in the next 20 to 25 minutes, I guess. And we will start with a couple of slides, and later on we're also going to switch to our solution so you can actually see how ScriptRunner help you to turn PowerShell into a cornerstone of your IT automation strategy. Yes, so let's dive right into the topic. And let's start. First off, ScriptRunner, what's our mission? Our mission is to enable you to streamline and automate all kinds of IT management processes using PowerShell. So everything that we offer to automate all kinds of tasks and processes in your organization are based on PowerShell. And we are helping people with using PowerShell, with learning PowerShell, with implementing all kinds of automation with PowerShell. And we provide a whole bunch of free goodies. We have a PowerShell cheat sheet, your Get Help for your office wall that you can get from our website. We have a PowerShell security ebook, 140 something pages covering all security aspects around PowerShell. And we also provide a cheat sheet for Teams and PowerShell and for Exchange and PowerShell. So feel free to go to our website, and that's a good way to improve the way that you use PowerShell in your daily business. All right, let's talk about the state of IT automation. And I have here a couple of results. In this case, it's from a survey from Red Hat from last year, where they ask organizations about the way and the level of automation they have implemented in their organization. And what we can see is that, there is a whole lot of different stages where organizations are when it comes to automating IT. So we have organizations already have an automation strategy where they are already working on getting everything enterprise-wide into a centralized IT automation strategy and infrastructure. We have, of course, organizations who are on the way, who are trying to get there, down to organizations who have not even planned to go for an IT automation strategy, which I guess is not the best way of doing things, especially in large organizations. I think an enterprise-wide IT automation strategy is really key for every enterprise organizations to move forward, to be successful. And then another part of this survey was about what kind of benefits you're expecting from an enterprise-wide IT automation and enterprise-wide IT automation strategy. And we can see, I would say, some usual suspects like better customer service, better customer experience. The second part, we see more creative strategic thinking, which I translate into getting more time to do this instead of doing firefighting all the time, instead of having repetitive tasks I have to trigger day in, day out. Increased investment in the business is another important aspect. Higher revenue, higher sales, because you're providing better service. That's, I think, an end result of this better customer service and better customer experience, better collaboration. I think it's another important part here. More productive teams in general, and happier employees, which I think is also a very important area, which means instead of having people that really have to do the same thing over and over again, day in, day out, maybe even in the danger to burn out because they do everything the same time, the same thing a lot of times. Having something, a solution that helps to automate all these repetitive tasks, of course, will also end up in having happier employees, more productive employees. And I think this is, of course, an important topic here as well. If we move on, here I have a couple of statements that are from a Broadcom survey, a recent one. I think it was, it came out beginning of this year. So what does it say here? Automation tools are deployed in multiple environments. Okay, because if you are in an enterprise environment, you might have, of course, still workload on premises. You might have public cloud, private cloud, SaaS solutions. And that, of course, might force you to have multiple automation tools for multiple environments. And what that means is that, more than one automation solution makes compliance more difficult. I think this is also an important statement. And in this scenario, having multiple automation solutions, of course, there are more challenges to it. For example, you need more time to automate. You need more time to report. Need more time to remediate automation problems, for example. And so using multiple automation solutions, adds to cost, makes it more difficult to troubleshoot, and delays delivery. I think this is also an important aspect of when you think about having an enterprise IT automation strategy. Of course, it's about also minimizing the number of solutions that you need to automate all your different environments, all your different solutions that you might have in your infrastructure. So another statement here is that, 81% of companies are using actually multiple automation solutions, and they're using them, to automate, to report, to resolve, of course, operational problems. And another thing that we see here, this is a statement from an IT architect who said, that of course it's not ideal to have a lot of automation tools in place because sometimes there are dependencies. You have, let's say, you end up with having island or siloed solutions for automation, which typically causes all the problems that were just mentioned. And of course, typically this is not by design. So this is something that just grow over time. And typically organizations, they try to reduce the number of solutions, of products, of services they use for their IT automation. And here is another result of this survey, which is also relates to, what are the challenges when you use multiple automation tools? In this case, it's related to cloud, but I guess the topic here is a general one. And what are the challenges? Extra time to actually build the automation. Reporting is more difficult because you have different dashboards, different ways of also, of course, using the problem, using the solutions, which brings us to operational problems. So it's there might be conflicts between the products itself, but also, of course, having 20 different tools to solve 20 different problems means also someone needs to know how to operate these 20 different tools. So of course, this also is not helpful in having a really well-working, well-oiled IT automation platform in your organization. And then you see other additional topics here: increased cost, difficult to troubleshoot. Of course, so meaning with every additional automation tool you have in your arsenal, you need more time. You need reporting gets more difficult. The operation working with all this with these tools and solutions become more difficult. So if we take all this into consideration, if let's say there would be the best of both worlds when it comes to requirements for an enterprise IT automation strategy, we could say, okay, let's avoid islands, right? Or silos. I mean, islands are great for holidays and vacations, but maybe not so much for building an enterprise IT automation strategy. Minimizing the number of IT automation solutions, because as we just learned, of course, each additional automation solution causes more and need more time to implement, to operate it, to get the reporting done, things like that. So ideally, you're ending up with a solution that is kind of multi-purpose, multi-platform. And also, of course, to make sure you always meet your service level agreements. And we should have a centralized monitoring solution so that for all the tasks that you automate, you have a centralized view on that, so you can react as fast as possible if necessary. So you have an overview about all the tasks and processes where maybe there might be some issues with on the operational side of things. So how does this relate to ScriptRunner? So as mentioned earlier on, ScriptRunner is PowerShell centric. And because of that, of course, with PowerShell, you can automate almost everything, right? So there are, of course, we have the complete Microsoft stack on-prem or in the cloud, talking Active Directory, talking Exchange, Office 365, Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, Azure, SQL Server. So all these systems, of course, for all these systems, you can use PowerShell. But then we have also the area of other vendors who support PowerShell as well, like VMware, like Citrix, like Google Cloud, AWS, SAP, Cisco, and so on. So there is a big variety of options here. And so the landscape is very, very versatile. And then, of course, including and integrating systems like ServiceNow, like Jira, being able to integrate things like Okta, CyberArk, other password server solutions. So that's, I think, something that really is important in the overall aspect of having a centralized IT automation platform. And so from our perspective, and if you are working in a big organization, you probably have a quite diverse IT infrastructure with all kinds of different platforms, on-prem, hybrid, or in the cloud. Now, having PowerShell as this versatile and strong foundation, of course, is a very big advantage because, as I said, PowerShell offers the possibility to manage almost everything. And if it's not possible with a module, you can do it with direct REST connections, for example. And then, so what ScriptRunner here brings to the table is having one IT automation solution on top of PowerShell to automate all kinds of tasks, reducing the complexity, meaning instead of having 20 different tools because of 20 different infrastructure services and products that you're using, you can use ScriptRunner to streamline, to automate, to delegate, to monitor all kinds of tasks and processes. And because we're talking PowerShell, of course, we're talking about standardizing as much as possible, but if necessary, you have the possibility to customize wherever necessary. So besides having a streamlined and standardized process for the overall infrastructure topics, you are, of course, able to customize as wherever it's needed. And if we look at examples when it comes to managing IT processes and tasks, of course. Well, we're talking about user onboardings, user offboardings. We're talking about administering and managing your mail infrastructures, your VMware infrastructure, your Citrix, your Hyper-V infrastructure, all your collaboration services like Teams, like SharePoint, other platforms as well, of course. And then, yes, of course, we're talking about cloud services, Azure, AWS, GCP, IBM Cloud. So these are just examples, but I think what's important here is really knowing that having PowerShell as this foundation for an automation strategy, having ScriptRunner on top of PowerShell to manage everything that enables you to automate, to delegate, to streamline and monitor all the different tasks, I think is key to a successful implementation of an IT automation strategy. Now, that means in more detail that in this context, again, of course, we're talking about standardizing, automating, delegating all kinds of processes and tasks. And then you might have different scenarios where you say, okay, I have this onboarding process. I would like to delegate this to a junior admin or to a help desk person, or maybe even to a line of business team, which would be a delegation where, you have to make sure that everything works according to your standardized procedures, which of course you can ensure with ScriptRunner. Then the second area when we talk about automation is of course the scheduled execution, where you might have all kinds of tasks for housekeeping, for reporting, things that should run every night, to archive data, to secure data, things like that. That's of course the second layer, the scheduled execution. And event-driven enables you to establish an end-to-end automation where you, for example, might have a Jira or ServiceNow system where you, for example, you trigger and you organize the processes for example, an onboarding. And at one point, when everything is approved, you can enable Jira, ServiceNow, any other system that's able to talk REST to trigger the execution of the necessary scripts in the background in ScriptRunner. So you're establishing basically an end-to-end automation for all kinds of processes. And having these three areas, interactive, scheduled, and event-driven, of course, opens up the possibility, again, to automate all kinds of tasks and then trigger them whatever is necessary for the individual task and the individual process. What, of course, is also very important in this context is having a comprehensive monitoring and reporting capability. So knowing what kind of processes have been triggered in the background, how long did it take, who triggered the execution of particular tasks and processes. Also, using this to start debugging if something doesn't work as expected. That's something that, of course, comes with the ScriptRunner solution. And the reason why this is possible is because instead of, as you might think of PowerShell in its native form, it's just something that everybody can run on the console. When you use PowerShell together with ScriptRunner, you are centralizing the scripts and modules management. You are centralizing everything that has to do with security, with managing the credentials, with a secure way of delegating tasks to, for example, people in help desk teams, a line of business. And that's typically something that, of course, with native PowerShell is not working at all because, number one, PowerShell know-how bottleneck. Number two, permissions. Of course, to enable somebody to trigger an onboarding, you would not give this person global admin rights in your back-end systems. And so this is something that is solved with ScriptRunner because we are completely separating the PowerShell execution logistics, so to speak, from the user experience. So we are combining the versatility of PowerShell with a secure way of using it, and also with an easy way of using it, because we are automatically creating user-friendly web forms for every task, so that really nobody needs to know anything about PowerShell. And so as an end result, coming back to this, okay, we have a multi-platform scenario with all kinds of backend systems. You might want to start to delegate all kinds of different tasks to different people. And then as an end result, somebody can maybe start an onboarding, can start a VM, can create an out-of-office management, can create reports, spin up VMs, starting to work with databases, things like that. So this is what I mean with multi-platform, multi-purpose, because with each tile that you see here, which actually presents a ScriptRunner action, as we call them, which is a process or a task. And so with each of these tiles in the backend, some might going to connect to SharePoint, some going to connect to VMware, the other one is going to connect to Citrix, to Azure, to AWS. From a user perspective, it's not any different for me, because it's only really about triggering and being able to fulfill specific tasks, and everything else is managed in the background with ScriptRunner IT automation platform. And at this point, let me show you a few more examples. So we are going to switch to my environment here, and yeah, let's use the last couple of minutes to actually show you a little bit around and to give you an idea how ScriptRunner actually looks like and what it can do for you. So here we are in the ScriptRunner portal, and we have two main roles. One is I'm a ScriptRunner administrator. That allows me to, for example, use the reporting. I can see what kind of tasks, what kind of processes have been triggered, either scheduled or by a user, like this one here, where I can see, okay, there was a user, Tina, and she stopped the VM, and I can see the result. There was also a little HTML message. I can see the PowerShell report, so I get all the information I need to when it comes to compliance, when it comes to reporting, to know, okay, what kind of task actually has been triggered. And what happened in this particular case also is that not only do we have some data here in the reporting, but in parallel also, because this is a task that got marked as critical, we also directly pushed a message into a Teams channel of the IT operations team, and giving the information that the user Tina from this machine triggered the stop of a particular VM, because that might be a critical incident. So that's why it's automatically being also documented in this Teams channel. Yeah, so this is one part of being an administrator in ScriptRunner. The other role is being someone who is enabled, is empowered to trigger certain tasks. So this brings us back to the screenshot that I just showed you earlier on. So for example, yes, somebody should be able to start an onboarding. I can click on the tile. I am able to select an already existing CSV file that contains all the data to create the users with the right permissions, with the right mailbox, and so on. And all I have to do is I'm selecting the CSV, I'm clicking on the run button, and then in the background, the users are being created. And I can move on. I can say, okay, I also maybe need to change some user properties, and I can select from a list of the users that I'm responsible for. I can see a lot of information that is read-only, but I could change the title of this user, for example, or I could move on and say, okay, I need to create a new SharePoint site, and let's give it a name, and let's set the language and the template, and I can click on the button. And now what I can also do, I can just click on close, and I can move on to the next task, because the script is executed in the background and it's indicated right here. I can see it's still running, and I could move on. I can say, okay, I need to create a report. I can click on the run button here. Again, I can close it and move on to the next task. Maybe that would be the infamous reset password scenario, where you can provide some information about what this action actually does. And I can select an OU. I can select the user. If I'm in the wrong OU, I can just switch back, and then dynamically the list here changes. I'm setting a password. It has to follow some certain rules, because we have a regular expression in my underlying script, and only then I can actually run this action. And by the way, if you're in a multi-language scenario, you could switch to, let's say, Spanish or French, and then this information becomes available in this language as well. I can click on it, and then again, in the background, the script is executed. And here I can see all the tasks that are still running at the moment. I can go back to executions that have been finished. So if I want to see what happened here, I can go to the report here. So I'm in full control about whatever happens here from a user perspective. And what you can do as well, you could take individual use cases that are based on PowerShell scripts, and you can implement them into an existing website. You could say, okay, I have use cases that I want to either include into an intranet web page, or maybe into a self-service portal that's already existing. Let's make this a little bit bigger here. And then, okay, so here, for example, I could be enabled to create a new VM in Azure, and I have a couple of parameters I can select from, like the VM size and the region, for example, and then I can click on the button here. And then again, in the background, the scripts are being executed, and everything, all these kinds of executions, they are part of the reporting section here. So I can see what kind of execution happened, and I can, especially, of course, I can go in here to see, okay, if something didn't work. I only want to see the failed executions, which happens here with VMware, because my environment was offline for quite a while, so the connection didn't actually work. So this is how you can start debugging tasks if, again, something maybe didn't work. And everything you need to make this work, your scripts, the credentials, the systems that you want to manage, the actual use case, which we called action, everything is managed in a web user interface, including, of course, the monitoring and also the delegation. So whenever you have tasks that you would like to automate, you can add them into the ScriptRunner configuration. And if you need to make changes, if we go to this scenario from here, for example, creating a new VM, we can go into the details and we can change settings for specific parameters. We can, for example, decide what kind of parameter of a script should be visible, what kind of parameters should be predefined and not visible for the user. For example, if the only thing a user could do is spin up Ubuntu VMs, I could set this as a default, and then I can just hide it, and then the user has no chance to make any selections when it comes to the operating system, for example. So there are all kinds of ways to simplify the user experience for example, your help desk teams or your line of business people. And it gives you all the possibilities to standardize the processes the way that you want them to be executed, no matter if it's triggered by user A, user B, or maybe, of course, in another scenario when these are automated schedule scenarios where you say, okay, I want to create specific reports. I need to do housekeeping constantly every night, for example. And then, of course, you can activate the scheduling part where you can say, I have tasks that should run every 30 minutes, daily, maybe twice a day, 3 times a week, 2 times a month. I can activate the email notifications. And as mentioned, of course, you can activate also to send and push messages to Teams channels if you have critical incidents that you would like to proactively, where you would like to proactively, inform your IT team about. Yeah, so, and of course, there's a centralized dashboard that gives you the overall information about, what kind of tasks you have, what kind of actions have been triggered the most, for example. So ScriptRunner here really is the centralized single pane of glass for everything, managing your IT processes based on PowerShell. And with this, let me just go back to my presentation and to sum up this session for today. Let's go back here. All right. Where are we? Here we are. No, we are not. Let's go back. Let's go back. This one here. Yeah. So I hope I could give you a quick introduction into how ScriptRunner helps you to establish your enterprise-wide IT automation strategy with a platform that enables you to automate all kinds of different processes and tasks, and having a centralized way of providing data for the dashboard, for the reporting. And as a result, if you think about the different roles involved in this kind of scenarios, you have your IT pros that can streamline all kinds of tasks, maximizing their time. Help desk people are able to enhance their services, expedite the delivery. Creating self-services helps to rapidly resolve tasks from the end user perspective as well. If you are a PowerShell developer, of course, you can expand scripting to automate as much as possible. And from the DevOps perspective, of course, this is a very secure and effective way to manage the scripts and to automate as much as possible. And then, of course, from the management perspective, you're ending up with consistent processes with a better quality that enables you to meet all the service level agreements. And if you're interested in learning more, of course, you can go to our website, scriptrunner.com. You can download our solution. You can test it 30 days for free. If you have individual questions, if you would like to discuss your individual use cases and infrastructure requirements, I would be very happy to start a conversation with you, book a session with me. And so because we are here to help you to, with your automation journey and accelerate actually your IT automation journey. So feel free to get in touch with us. And with this, thanks a lot for tuning in. Thanks for attending, and keep on scripting.